There's the light of experiencing, the light of awareness. You are experiencing, you are aware, you are conscious, and your experiencing, your consciousness, your awareness enlightens each expression. It enlightens, it illuminates the known, and the known being this seamless display of experience, expressions of the same light that you are, that is enlightened and enlivened by your experiencing. So you are already enlightened in that sense. It's not like you have to attain experiencing or awareness. You don't have to attain that. What else is there? Where else is there? And it's what you are, that nowness. And that nowness is full of potential, absolutely brimming, overflowing with possibility. And that's what you are, your pure potentiality, your pure possibility.
This experiencing, this awareness is already freedom. There's nothing to cultivate. There's nothing to do or undo. Presence is what is. This is presence right now. Like, regardless of what's going on, this is presence. We cover it over with other stuff, our way of thinking about life and the way we interpret. And that's what we call not present anymore. Distraction. But distraction occurs within presence. It's within the context of presence. So there's nothing but presence. And so the intellectualizing is more of the same, isn't it? More of the presence. But it's dressed itself up as intellectualizing and philosophizing and conceptualizing. You know, it's not that it's useless. It's good for functioning in everyday reality. But it turns out that all of our ideas about life, all of our interpretations can't be verifiable. And all of this stuff that I've created appears within my experience, within my awareness.
You're listening to the Nonduality podcast. This is Nic Higham from nisargayoga.com, and here with me is Paul Dobson for another open-ended exploration of this. It seems that we spend most of our lives on the surface of the ocean, in the more agitated, disturbed waves. Delve into the depths of those, and inevitably you will come across the natural state. You'll come across the simple, tranquil depth of what you already are. And that depth is not at odds or not detached from the outward disturbance that we tend to focus on.
Yeah. Everything's doing itself, isn't it? The whole thing is doing itself. Even that's not quite correct, because what you are is it. It's like a lucid dream, really. You know, like there might be all these events happening within the dream, and they might all seem to be awful and terrible, and might be very high drama. And you just, there's a split second of noticing that it's a dream, and suddenly it's no longer a problem whatsoever, because you are essentially lying in bed completely safe. The whole dream is unfolding from you, so it's not a problem. You know, you're not trapped in anything, and you're not forced into anything you don't want to be happening. It's kind of just unfolding. It's just and you've noticed already that it's a dream, so you're free of the whole thing. You actually always, I always do like use a dream analogy, because it's the same, because in a dream you always were free of the whole dream. You always were, say, you know, as far as this metaphor goes, you were in bed safe, but you haven't noticed that fact. And as far as you haven't noticed it, you are completely sort of seemingly trapped within it, at the whims of whatever appears to be happening to you within that dream. And the second you notice it, and there's not a practice to notice if you're in a dream, you just might suddenly just notice spontaneously, and then suddenly the whole dream is changed. You are awakened within the dream, and that's all awakening is. You've noticed, you know, just a noticing. The whole thing still happens by itself and isn't a problem anymore. You know, the whole dream is still arising as this kind of cinematic show, as opposed to this thing that you're stuck in, you've taken for your reality. And that's kind of our situation here, really. There's nothing to say this isn't our situation. It's a kind of let the game happen by itself. I think that is kind of the tranquility that you were talking about. It's just that noticing that you're always free. They say in Dzogchen, and they say it in quite a lot of the traditions, they say it in Advaita Vedanta essentially as well, that you are enlightened already. You know, enlightenment is what you are.
Yeah. There's the light of experiencing, the light of awareness. You are experiencing, you are aware, you are conscious, and your experiencing, your consciousness, your awareness enlightens each expression of that experiencing. It enlightens, it illuminates the known, and the known being this seamless display of experience, expressions of the same light that you are, that is enlightened and enlivened by your experiencing. So yes, you are already enlightened in that sense. It's not like you have to attain experiencing or awareness. You don't have to attain that. You're already aware. It's not something you have to even cultivate or expand. Do you find your experiencing to be limited? Do you find a beginning? Do you find an end? Do you find any divides within it? There's only this.
This experiencing, this awareness is already freedom. Our way of thinking about life and the way we interpret seems to be sort of closed down, and like this framework we've created is a subset. You know, it's a subset of what we are. It's like the leaf on a tree or something like that. Whereas what we are is the whole tree. So it's, you know, it's not that it's useless. It's good for functioning in everyday reality. But then when we kind of come up against suffering and restlessness and dissatisfaction and we start to inquire deeply into these issues and our existence, what am I actually? You know, what is it true, all of this stuff I've been thinking about life and about myself? And one by one you kind of knock them down, like all these beliefs and interpretations, opinions, concepts, any position you've had about life and yourself, and just tick them off one by one. Because every time you've seen through it, it's let go of. You can't verify it. There's no way of verifying it to be true. So it's ticked off the list. We're taking, as you said before, Occam's razor, and we're going, right, let's tick off anything which isn't absolutely true. And it turns out that all of our ideas about life, all of our interpretations can't be verifiable 100%, not 100%, not absolutely. So you go, well, where's the starting point? What's the ground of it all? What is it arising within? And realize all of this stuff that I've created appears within my experience, within my awareness.
That's it. Life is infinite. I'm not saying that from a belief. I'm not saying it based on a philosophical or scientific system. I'm saying this moment is infinite. This moment is beginningless. This moment is endless. This moment is undivided. This moment, here and now, is uncaused. I can't find a cause here and now. I'm going on what is apparent, what is actual, not going on what I believe. It's that freedom from disturbance and agitation, because that disturbance and agitation were never actual in the first place. Aversions, inclinations, dispositions may arise as well, and they're all free to arise. So it's not even about getting to a state of fixity where now I'm at this position where I'm a tranquil person, I'm content. As soon as the mind starts to concretize and solidify any of that spontaneous seeing of what is, it gets turned into another position, it gets turned into another belief system, another, source for more suffering, really, and delusion. So forget the books, forget the theories, forget the assumptions, forget the things you've been told or you've just taken on, and just go on here, now, this. What do you find?
Yeah, it's also not, though, it's also not just, so I'm just meant to put up with whatever arises, you know, and that's meant to be fine. It's also not that either, is it? It's not kind of, because that's kind of like another position on things that isn't quite it. It's seeing that it's really difficult to describe, actually, because it's seeing that it's allowed, but it's not an intellectual thing. We describe it in words and intellectualizations, and this is how we describe this, but it's as a seeing, it's like, okay, yeah, just see that it's already allowed, already happening.
It's not an opinion that it's okay. It's a noticing that it's okay because it's happening, because it happened, and because anything that happens is nothing but life, and that's what you are. So how can it not be okay?
Well, exactly. You're on the sofa having a hot chocolate, watching the film. You're fine. You're safe from what's happening. Emotions might be arising, but when the film's over, they will most likely dissipate. And that's kind of somewhat like that, isn't it? That you are free within the turmoil, the peace that passeth all understanding. It is passes all understanding, because you can't try and understand it or intellectualize it. You're like, oh, that doesn't make any sense, that this should all be okay. But it is. It's because there's a tiny part of you, or maybe a large part of you, whichever way you want to put it, that knows. That's the part that knows. It's the you. It's the real you. Or, not to say there's a false you, but it's like that universal you that knows that it's all okay. It's like, oh, just relax. It's okay. It's okay. It's like it just lets the smaller you know just for a second, just gives it a little shoulder rub and goes, it's okay. And that's kind of just tapping into that, really, isn't it?
Yeah. In some sense, we know that life is spontaneous and effortless, and everything is kind of provided without striving. But in another sense, we believe that we work for an incentive and that we are moving towards a goal, and we always have this kind of reward in mind, and we strive for it. We assert kind of great effort and willpower in accordance with our desire, and our desire is based on the attainment of something that we see as missing in our lives, in our sense of self. That's the initial delusion, that there is something missing, that there is something we need to be complete. So if we just question that, we don't even need to go on that search. We don't even need to strive towards something else beyond here and now. And that can happen very quickly just by seeing the falsity for what it is, the falsity that you lack. And that time and space built within the journey of seeking is going to fulfill you. Because we all know what it's like. You get to one peak of the mountain and it's nice, it's pretty, a good view, get some kind of clarity and a sense of elevation and a higher perspective, or we find a certain gift or reward at that peak. And before we know it, we realise there's another peak. And then we get there, and when we look up and we go, oh, it's another peak. And it's a slippery process of attainment, overlooking what already is, taking what is here for granted. It's not enough. I'm not enough. There's physical and mental efforting. That is the suffering. It's not the absence of what you think you need. It's the search for it. And it's the belief that what you desire isn't already here. Because it's all here. Actually, in truth, it's all here. It's only here. So it must be found here, not at the top of the mountain, although it's there as well. It's on every level. Whatever flavour of life you're after, it's always going to be found here and now. What else is there? Where else is there?
Well, that's it.
And it's what you are, that nowness. And that nowness is full of potential. Absolutely brimming, overflowing with possibility. And that's what you are, your pure potentiality, your pure possibility.
Yeah, but it's not the cause and effect thing. It might appear like that, but that's just an appearance. It's how it seems. But just because that's how we view things, that doesn't make it true. That's not... It's like we've overlaid the A to B cause and effect map on top of this infinity. And it's like, it's infinite. So where's room for cause and effect in infinity?
Yeah. All happens by itself. Your experiencing is effortless. It's uncaused. You can't shut out experiencing or awareness. And your experiencing by its very nature radiates and creates this seamless show of experiences. these pictures, this rich display of experiencing itself effortlessly and spontaneously. To talk about a linear journey, to talk about a practice that can get you from here to there, misses the point. You think about digestion or the growth of hair, even the succession of thoughts. Those thoughts are spontaneous, really. They seem to have a recurring pattern, don't they? Thoughts seem to be repetitive, and especially when they are tied with identity. The same thought doesn't keep coming around. Each thought is unique, really.
The same thing basically never, even as familiar as it seems, never happens twice, does it? It's always, we're very good at creating familiarity. What even is a thought? I mean, it's arising, but what is it? I mean, these things are talking to us all day long, and we take them to be us, if they're convincing enough. It's like, oh, I am my thoughts, that is my personality talking. I am what these is arising. But what are they? What actually are they? We just assume we know what these things are, but no one can tell you what a thought is. They can tell you where it might correlate to certain parts of the brain or bits that light up or whatever. But what's a brain? And what's a correlation? What is a thought?
You can't really ask that question and find an answer, because you can't catch thoughts, can you? Long enough to actually say, right, now I'm going to investigate this thought. It's not like you can hold it and say, right, let's delve into it. What is it? What's the nature of this thought? Because you can't hold on to them. They're so transient, so short-lived. But there is something energetic about thought, isn't there? Something very alive. It's just sensation. It's all you can ever find. Sensation, which itself is energy. What do we know? We know mental conception. We know sense perception. The good thoughts, the bad thoughts, the pretty thoughts, the ugly thoughts, every kind of sensation. If it's all energy, then that's non-duality.
Yeah. And then the energy perceives itself as other.
And that's still energy.
Yeah, and it's more of the energy. It's energy divided up by energy, isn't it?
That's it.
It's like water divided up by water. But I mean, what even is energy? Is like, that's an interesting one. Like, what's...
Don't know, let's Google it.
yeah. If they could give me a whole book on what energy is, Google, and I'd still go, I don't know what is it?
I've got here, energy is everything. A science website.
There you go.
There you go then. Job done.
Job done. I mean, that's what, they should leave it there with science, shouldn't they, really? Energy is everything.
Just going through the search results. Energy is how things change and move. Energy is everywhere.
So we're on the same page. Energy is everywhere. Well, what is everywhere? Everywhere is energy, isn't it? It's like there is no everywhere other than energy. Energy is kind of a good word. It's just about kind of vague enough, isn't it?
Energy is essential to life. It cannot be created or destroyed, but it can take many forms.
It cannot be created or destroyed. Energy. That's interesting, isn't it? Like, I always find that one really interesting, because that's basically what they say in Advaita and the other non-dual traditions like Dzogchen and others. They say awareness or God or Brahman or the Dharmakaya. It is self-created and it can't be destroyed. It's completely immutable, indestructible. It's just the same stuff, just in different words, isn't it, really? I mean, because it is reality. The scientists are exploring reality. They're not exploring anything else. What else can they explore?
I mean, the fascinating thing is that we can manipulate energy. It doesn't stop it from being nothing but energy. We can convert it. We can change it, apparently. But
using what, though?
What, energy?
Yeah, exactly. It's weird, isn't it? You can't get out of it. Energy does some stuff with energy. And the result is energy. It's weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
What I do find interesting is just not calling anything at all. The mind doesn't like that at all. It's like grasps is so conditioned to call things things to even call things. It's just such an automatic mode of the mind, or whatever this is, to label like RoboCop or something, or the Terminator. It's just like labels. This is a threat. The mind isn't even a thing anyway. I mean, what is the mind? But the mind, whatever that functioning is, that mode, and it's managed to convince itself that, oh, it's just okay. So I'm here I am, a human in a world. That object's over there. That object's over there. You're there. I'm here. I know what I am. I know what's going on. Once it has to start dealing with stuff which is totally beyond that little framework, that wider reality or whatever it is, it starts to panic. And that's why in Dzogchen they call it removing obscurities. But ultimately there are no obscurities because it's all reality. But on a relative point of view, it kind of is. It's removing like little obscurities, kind of like our ideas of what this is, our conceptual framework, and seeing, as we said in the beginning, and kind of inquiring into them, and therefore seeing through them. And then piece by piece, they kind of are taken apart. It's unraveled, or whatever you want to say. Going, well, actually, I have no idea what this is happening, and I don't know what it is, and I don't know what I am, and it's all happening, and I can't actually separate myself out of it. It's all arising together.
You are that simple being, and you need nothing to rest on. And if you were to rest on something, you would be resting on nothing but yourself, that ground of being, that outpouring of energy.
Yeah, presence is the natural state.
And thankfully, there's no need to even try to get back to that natural state, to that simple way of being, because that's all there is. There seems to be complexity, but what is the nature of that complexity but simplicity? There seems to be unnaturalness, but what is the nature of that unnaturalness but that natural state?
There's nothing to cultivate. There's nothing to do or undo. Presence is what is. Practices and paths, progressive paths tell you is that you need to get to cultivate presence, which is just nonsense, isn't it? I mean, this is presence right now. Like, regardless of what's going on, this is presence. We cover it over with other stuff, and that's what we call not present anymore. Distraction. But distraction occurs within presence. It's within the context of presence. So there's nothing but presence.
When you're not present, and if you look around at the objects that surround you, they're present, but can you find a divide between the presence of the object and the presence of what you take yourself to be? Where does the presence of the object and presence of you start and end? You know, is it that there's an overlap, or is it just that there's just presence, and presence is just totally open and limited, and all these objects, including the body, mind, and the sense of self, and all the stuff around you in the room or wherever you are, it's all contained within that presence. It's not like it's your presence and the presence of an object or presence of somebody else. There's just presence, and you can't separate the objects within presence and the presence itself, because without presence there'd be no objects, and without objects there'd be no ability to conceptualize presence, really.
No, there just would be presence, obviously, within itself, but not conceptualizing itself as something, you know, as presence. It would just be what it is, which is actually what is the situation anyway. It is what it is. It's completely itself. Yet, incredibly, there's all these objects apparent, you know, all this imagery and sensations and, you know, what we call objects arising in it. And that makes it appear as otherness. And then once you've got that, you've opened a can of worms, haven't you? Because then everything comes from that, you know. I've got my presence, you've got your presence, the cat's got its presence, and the tree's got its own presence.
But that's not true, though.
And that's why that's it. That's the can of worms, isn't it? When, you know, actually that's just what is. It's not something you can work out. It's not something. In the intellectualizing is the thing that's kind of seemingly covering it up.
But the intellectualizing is present.
Yeah, and so the intellectualizing is more of the same, isn't it? More of the presence, but it's kind of like it's amazing. It's dressed itself up as intellectualizing and philosophizing and conceptualizing. It's dressed itself up like that,